All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the second Q&A for Clear and Confident. I am so happy to be here with y'all today to answer your questions and just to connect in person, even through the video and airwaves. It's very palpable, and I'm just really glad that we can hang out. I'm going to put this on my Do Not Disturb. I'm doing really good. I just got this this new iPhone, and it's just a little bit to navigate. It's a little bit different than my previous phone. I had an iPhone 6 before. Now I have an iPhone 11, and there is a huge difference. It's a huge upgrade, and it's funny because it's like it just takes a moment to adjust, and then once we get it, once we practice and work with it, it just becomes second nature, and I love that. So that's just like a microcosm. See, I'm getting text right now, but now you can't hear it because I just put it on my Do Not Disturb, and there's a different way to navigate to get in there, and it's so cool because that's just a microcosm of what's going on in the world and how we are with ourselves and how we want to we want to basically download the new software by doing these practices and things like that so that we can adapt to the changes in the new climate in the world. And that's why I love this course, and that's why I love these teachings and these practices, because they are fully holistic. And that's what they do. They help us to basically download the new information, get the new programs downloaded. Is this my phone still? I hit Do Not Disturb on here, but it's weird. Let me try it again. Here I am talking about this. Do Not Disturb. You know what? I just put on airplane, so that should work. But that's what we're doing essentially with these practices, is we're getting the new software installed. We're installing the new software so that we can be more adaptable to the times and to the changes in ourselves as we mature and as we grow and expand our consciousness, and also in the world as the world changes and grows. And that's really important. And I think that once we'll get a better idea of that going through these questions and everything. But I think that's a really important concept to keep in mind with the course and the teachings. And as much as we're doing for ourselves to just be more comfortable in our skin, it's just not so black and white. We're not just not trying to be comfortable in our skin. I mean, that's a big part of it. But we want to be comfortable in our skin so that we can also adapt to the changes that are happening in the world, and so that we can strengthen the nervous system and be able to live with confidence and strength and awareness and compassion, and most important, empathy in these times, because this is what these times are calling for. These times are calling for empathy. They're calling for compassion. They're calling for us to be comfortable in our skin so that we're not so self-consumed, and that we can actually do things in the world that have some, that are making a difference, and whatever that is. So whether it's just our presence, or which is huge, whether it's the way that we parent or the way that we treat other people in the workplace, and so on and so forth. And how we deal with our own mind, and how we deal with the feelings that come from the thoughts that we repeat over and over and give energy to, and all of that kind of stuff. The more that we can be aware of those things, so that we can move through these feelings of loneliness, uncomfortability, feelings of anxiety, things like that. And remember that these are things that can be superficial if we're aware of how the mind works and how the body works and things like that, so that we could work with ourselves to go through these times. Like, for instance, if I go through a period of time where I feel a little more depressed than normal, like, if I feel like a little bit of like a sub-depression of what I normally feel, I want to be aware of that, because I don't want to just be like, oh, okay, this is just how it is when this happens. Or I want to be aware of how my mind is working, and that I'm stuck And there are times, like for instance, I was just driving home. I did a long 3-day drive after this tour, and I learned a big lesson from that. And one of the big lessons that I learned was how my mind would easily latch on to certain thoughts to keep me in a depressed state. So it was like, it was that I was able to actually, I felt a little bit in a depressed state, but I was actually able to observe how my mind was working in those moments to latch on to certain thoughts and create certain thoughts to perpetuate the feeling of depression. And I was aware of that as I was driving, because I didn't have any other damn thing to do but look at the road and drive for 30 hours. And when I was doing that, I learned a lot about the tendencies of how this mind works, and it was really enlightening. It was grueling, and it was hard, and it was sad, and there was never any fun part to it, I wouldn't say, but there was a lot of, and then sometimes it just normalized and I was just driving, but I don't remember a time where I actually noticed myself just being like this for 3 days. Like literally, I was in this weird space, and I was like, God, come on, Simrit, like you do all this amazing work, and what's going on? Like I was like really working with myself in those 3 days, and what I realized is that was a huge gift, that I was able to really observe how easily the mind can latch on to certain thoughts. First it's a thought, and then those thoughts turn into feelings, and then those feelings turn into actions. But the way that my mind would want to just like latch onto this to create a feeling that I would be stuck in. And then the more that I would feel that feeling of just being that slight depressed feeling, the more the mind would create more thoughts so that I would stay in there. And then I asked myself something. So I said, okay, now I'm aware of what the mind is doing, and that's better than just, for me, that works better than just being in this space and being oblivious to that and just thinking this is what reality is like. I was like, I know this isn't in reality. This is the reality that my mind wants to create, but it's not my reality. So I was aware of that, and then I had the liberty to choose if I wanted to stay there or not, because I was aware of what was happening. And that's what these practices give us the power to do. And I'm sharing this experience with you because it's an important thing to talk about, because we as humans tend to do this. And most of the time, we're not aware that we're doing it. So the fact that I was aware that I was doing this, and aware that the mind so easily wanted to be in this state of kind of like hold this state, then I was able to make a decision. I was able to decide, do I want to stay in this space? And so at some moments I said, yes, I do want to feel this. I just want to feel how this feels. And so I allowed myself to be there. But there were other times where I was like, I don't want to feel this. Ugh, it feels so heavy. And then I would do some breath of fire. I was doing like shoulder shrugs when I could, and, just moving my head, and I was chanting some mantras and things like that. At this point, I don't know. Oh, I know what it is. It's now that the messages are coming through my computer. I'm like, I turned off like all the ways that it could have happened on my phone, and now it's still happening because it's coming through my computer. All right. There we go. Hopefully that works. And so I wanted to share that with you because it's very real. And don't we all do these things? Isn't it interesting how sometimes like we just want to feel a certain way? We want to feel how we're feeling, and maybe we don't feel good, but we want to feel that way. Have you ever felt that before, where you're just like, for real, it's what we do. And it's a choice though. And I think where the empowerment comes from is being aware of the process of how the mind works and how the thoughts create feelings. The thoughts that we give energy to create feelings, because I was giving a lot of energy to these thoughts, and I was aware of that. And then I was sitting in it, and I was like, wow, this is real. Like I was having a real life experience of thoughts to feelings to actions, and how my body felt different. I was in a more depressed state. And then the second day of and this is, mind you, this was an experience that I had that did not depend on like someone trying to talk me out of it or anything. I wasn't talking on the phone to anybody. I was just in my space. And I was going through some gorgeous desert and seeing these incredible views and things like that. And I decided at that time, the second day, midday, that I was going to focus my energy on the beautiful views and then focus on my gratitude for being able to see these beautiful views and these paintings in the sky that creation has given us to marvel at and to also see ourselves in. So I started to focus on that, and then the energy shifted because I wasn't focusing on the thoughts that were that I was feeling this like depressed energy with. And I think this is just a very important thing to share with you, experience to share with you, because not because it says that I'm weak or that I'm strong or that I'm smart or not, or I'm so intuitive or not intuitive, but because I also live in this human body like everybody else does. And it was an experiment, and I was experimenting with how the mind truly can affect the body and vice versa, and how we and when we have the power and the awareness to decide how we want to feel, or how we want to focus our energy. Let's put it that way, how we want to focus our energy. Then we see how that affects the way that we feel, how it affects our perspective, how it affects the way our body, we feel in our bodies, things like this. So it was really an interesting experiment. It was an interesting experience, and it was very enlightening, to say the least. And sometimes when we're in it, and even though I was telling myself, I know this is happening for a reason, sometimes we don't quite remember, do we? Until we get out of it and have this hindsight, and we can look back at it and say, oh, that was a gift. That was a gem. I'm so glad that I had that experience. So let's get to our first question. This is from Suzanne from Brooklyn. And Suzanne says, I'm putting together a mini retreat for some friends that are dealing with broken relationships and going through menopause. Would all these kriyas and meditations be good for this? Do you have suggestions for anything else that would work as far as hormonal changes, hot flashes, moods? Seems like all these would do well. Thank you. Yes, you're correct. All these would be amazing for that. There are some particular kriyas that are great for going through menopause and premenstrual times of women's lives. And I don't have those on me on my person, but you can look those up online. Look up kriyas for menopause or kriyas for premenstrual syndrome or PMS, or whatever, however you want to look that up. And you'll find some great information and kriyas that you can read and follow the directions exactly how they're stated. But also, these kriyas that I have given in the course are specifically targeted for women to help remove blocks, insecurities, physical ailments, things like that. So yes, all of these kriyas will help with all of that and help you and help empower you to make your own choices and decide where you want to put your energy, and also decide, hey, I'm going through menopause, I'm going through broken relationship, I'm going to make a clear decision on, reaching out for help somewhere or something like that. So yes, these are all great. I would suggest, if you're going through menopause, lots of water and good rest and a nice yoga practice. Those will help soften the effects. Some women that practice yoga on the daily don't experience as many menopausal symptoms, and some do. So there's no, right or wrong here. It's not a black or white thing. You just have to do what you feel intuitively led to do. But there's some beautiful breaths, and one of them is called the 1 minute breath, and you can look that up online. I suggest that. Working with your breath is very, very helpful when you're going through menopause. And it's very, very helpful for dealing with the mind. And I know menopause not only affects the body, but it affects the mind. And I know a lot of women that have gone through menopause and that are currently going through menopause, and that are doing things like specific breath work. And like I said, I suggest the 1 minute breath. So please look that up. It's great for menopause, and it helps you learn how to have more control over the breath. And when we have more control over the breath, then the mind doesn't pull us around like a crazy, like puppy dog, like going in like 50 different directions. And we feel a lot more contained and satisfied. So check out the 1 minute breath. But even doing something like 3 minutes of long deep breathing, or doing these exercises, a lot of these exercises, these warm-ups that we give in the course, are perfect for menopause because you're doing a lot of breath work. We're doing the aura charge or the cat-cow, anything like that. All these are incredible ACE exercises for going through menopause, going through any hard life situations. And just everyday life, if you're not having a hard time in life, these are still amazing. So I hope that answered your question. Okay, so Stephanie from Maui says, what does projection with the voice mean? If you could go deeper into that. Well, I'm not sure exactly what you're speaking about, but projection with the voice means that your voice is penetrative, that it doesn't matter the quality of necessarily the volume of the voice. It's not a loud voice necessarily, but the voice penetrates. So you could have a soft, airy voice, or you could have a clear, you could have a very clear, like clear as a whistle, voice. But it's more about the penetrative quality of the voice and how the voice can come in. Your own voice can affect you and change you on a molecular level, but also other people, and how your voice affects others and creates change. We could do a whole course on that. So I'm not sure exactly what you mean, like go deeper into what the qualities of what that voice would sound like. Well, that's different for everybody. But when we talk about the projection of the voice, we want the navel strong, and we want the person, the being, engaged and ideally coming from the heart, but the root of the sound is coming from the navel. Does that make sense? The energy is coming from the navel, like the navel is your springboard. You're harnessing your energy at the navel, and you're projecting from the heart, and with sincerity. Sincerity is a big key. Okay, so let's see. Here's a question from Fancy. I love your name, in Portland. Okay, this is Fancy said, this isn't a question but a request. There is a recording you and your band did at Minla of Waheguru Wahegio that is so powerful and beautiful. Jaidev has used it in a couple of the Dharma yoga classes, and I sometimes listen to the class so I can hear the recording. My request is to be added to the Academy audio section of LFA site so it could be used for the clearing the arc line meditation. Would that be possible? Thank you. We can do that. And I think that I'm not sure if it was fully finished or mastered, or I'm not sure why it's not on there, but we'll get that on there for you. Thank you. Thank you, Fancy. I just wanted to say your name. Becky from Elk, Washington. Are the breath practices safe for hypertension? 100% they are. And for hypertension, they can actually help. So it just depends, too, on where you are and how you feel. You have to go with your intuition. I'm not sitting there with you. But what I could say is this. Do what feels intuitively right for you. Tune into that. But yes, in general, the breath practices are amazing for hypertension, and they can actually help hypertension. I have a brother with hypertension and a gazillion other things, and when he does a little bit of yoga with me sometimes, which he does rarely, when we see each other, it's always very, very helpful for him. It doesn't get him more intense. It doesn't make his heart start beating faster. It actually helps his heart regulate. It helps him to feel more relaxed and contained. All right, this is from Larissa in Pagosa Springs, Colorado. When I'm doing the various exercises, where do I breathe from, excluding breath of fire? Do I breathe deep in my belly or just normal or something else? When I'm doing the shoulder shrugs, I feel like my breathing gets really high up in my chest, armpit area. Do I need to focus it lower my belly? Yes. When we're breathing any other way, when we're breathing anyway in this practice with Kundalini Yoga, we always want to breathe from the belly, even with breath of fire or a charge. The belly's moving, the navel's moving in and out. When we're taking long, deep breaths, the navel is moving in and out. When we're doing the 1 minute breath, we breathe in for 20 seconds, hold the breath for 20 seconds, then breathe out for 20 seconds. We're also engaging the navel. We always want to breathe from the belly area because that's always going to be a deeper breath. You're going to get more out of the breath that way. Most of us have been trained to breathe more shallow, so we're used to breathing that way. But I just did this. When we're doing shoulder shrugs, my navel is always engaged and the breath is always coming from the navel, even though I'm guiding the breath up here too, because I'm moving this area of the body. The breath is always coming from the navel. So my navel is always engaged. It doesn't mean I'm clenching my navel in. I don't have to clench my navel. My navel is engaged. You see what I'm saying? Whether I'm pulling it in or not, my navel is engaged. So this is what this course is helping you to cultivate, is the relationship with the navel, so you don't always have to think about it. It's just like, it's like your skin. It's like second nature. It just happens. So for me at this point in my life, it just happens naturally. But I do remember when I started breathing from the navel from the first time, or being aware of that kind of breath. And that's when I started to sing, like professionally and study professionally. And that was a profound practice for me. And then studying Kundalini Yoga shortly after. Yeah, it definitely, we always want to be coming from the navel. So even when we're doing something like, I think we do this when we're doing spinal twists, we still are coming from the navel. So we're engaging the navel, bringing the arms, the biceps parallel to the ground, and we're twisting as we inhale. And when we inhale, we're still engaging the navel. Everything comes from the navel. We want to always pivot from this area of the body because this is where we harness our power. And when we're coming from the heart, we want to be harnessing the power at the navel, and then we want to project from the heart. It's a powerful combination, and it penetrates, and it makes sense, and it is able to be heard, and it is able to be received. So with that said, we want to do everything pivoting from the navel. The navel is our foundation. That's where we move from, physically and energetically. Okay. So and I do want to mention this, that the more that you practice with these kriyas and these warm-ups and these exercises and this information, the more this just becomes second nature. But it doesn't happen overnight. So don't expect it just to be like, oh, now some things may click like that, and some things may take a few months, or some things may take a year, or some things may take 5 days, or whatever it is. Or you may get something instantly and remember, wow, this feels really familiar to me. But you don't maybe know why, but it's okay. You don't have to know why. You just know it feels familiar, and you go with that. So yes, the more that you practice, the easier it becomes, and the less engaged your mind has to be, because you're already in the space. The less engaged your thinking mind has to be about, like, okay, I think about the navel, I'm thinking about this. It's just happening. So yes, breathing always from the navel. The more that you do that on a daily basis, the better your health will be. The more sickness you can avoid, things like that. There's this beautiful teaching, and I don't know if I mentioned it in the course or not, but I think I did. A beautiful gem of a teaching is this. If you take every waking hour during the day, so that means not when you're asleep, every waking hour, every 30 minutes, or every 30 minutes to an hour of the day, if you could take 3 long, deep breaths from the navel, you will increase your health dramatically. And most people don't even do that in one day. Do you know they don't even take one deep breath in a day? So if you can remember to stop, like every hour, every few hours even, and take a few long deep breaths, see how that makes you feel. Look back in a week, try that for a week and see what happens. My teacher gave that as a practice, and it's always in the back of my head. And I don't do it every hour on the hour or every 30 minutes, but I do it as much as I can remember. And I love having that teaching sitting in my brain and sitting in my being, because it does pop up sometimes and I'm like, and I remember to do that. And when I do that 3 times, I feel invigorated. And also doing breath of fire for a few minutes, or doing breath of fire for 5 minutes, just like sitting in the car or hanging out and working and typing on my computer. Why not, and see how that feels so incredibly invigorating and invigorates the mind. You feel like you're doing calisthenics for your mind. You feel so good. Like it feels way more clear in the mind. Your body feels more, you feel more alert in your body. And doing breath of fire for 5 minutes clears your blood. So it's a very, very easy and beautiful practice that I would encourage you to incorporate into your daily life. And it becomes more like second nature. Okay, that's great. Let's get to, this is Anita from Middletown, New York. I have found that if I take a couple days away, I have to retrain my body. When I am constant in the practice, I do feel the difference in a positive way that stays with me for the entire day. Do you have anything to say about this? I do. I think that it's different for everybody, but I feel that I've experienced this a gazillion times where I've taken a day off or a couple of days off, and I don't usually experience such a dramatic shift after a day, but I've not done it for like a week, 2 weeks, I've let it go like that before, just to see how I would feel, and I definitely feel a big shift. And you know what I think? I think that it's like this. It's not even about like, well, I've done it every day for 5 years, and because when we have that kind of attitude, there's still more of a constriction around it, which not only constricts the mind, it constricts the body, it constricts the flow of the breath, it constricts our perception of ourselves and the reality. What I suggest is just be consistent with it. So that means stop making it like a contest with yourself. I mean, you can if that's fun for you and that works, but don't feel like you have to do that. But I will tell you, for me, I did have to be rigid about it in the beginning. I was more rigid about it. So in the beginning, when I first started these practices, I was making sure I was up at 3:45 every morning, so I was on my mat at 4 a.m. And this was happening for years, and then I had a baby. And then when I had a baby, everything shifted, and I was not getting up at 3 a.m. to do anything but feed my baby. And then all I needed was some damn sleep. I just needed to go to sleep. So my sadhana, my practice changed its form, but I was still practicing these practices. I was still doing something on a daily basis to put me in touch with myself through this medium of this practice, which is extremely effective, and this is why we're working with it. It's effective because you're getting a lot of bang for your buck, so in a short amount of time, you get a big effect. So what I suggest is this. If you have a couple days where you take off, or and I know you don't mean to, you're not telling yourself, I'm going to take off for 2 days or whatever it is, but let's say a couple days go by and you haven't done it. Instead of beat yourself up, or instead of tell yourself I'm so lousy at this, or whatever you're saying, or I'm not as radiant, or I'm not going to get the effect. How about this? Just hop back on. Don't think about it and just do it. And that's what consistency is. Consistency is not like you didn't do 5 hours today, but you did 3 hours yesterday. You only did 5 minutes that day. You did it at 10 p.m. this day. You did it at 3 a.m. this day. That's consistency. Consistency is keeping it constant in your life. And when it's constant in your life, it ain't no big deal. You see what I'm saying? It's just not a big deal. But you have to be consistent, especially and vigilant, especially in the beginning, to make it more of a habit. You have to create a habit out of it. and it's a very good habit. So even if it's a little more rigid in the beginning, it's okay. But just remember, that's not the goal. The goal is not to be so rigid about it. The goal is to be relaxed about it. The goal is to make it integrated into your life, so it's not something that's like, oh, I have to do my practice now. Oh, I don't even have time. I did so many things today, because I have gone through this process. I've been doing this practice for 20 years, and I've gone through so many different stages and processes with this practice. And I have found what works for me. And eventually it just settles in your being. It settles in there, and it settles inside of you and becomes a part of you. And it's not something that's separate. You know what I'm saying when I say that? Like eventually you're just being a parent, because that's what you do. You don't know anything different. It's not separate. You're a parent. You're whatever you are in the world. You do all these different things. Same with this. Like you do your practice. It's like taking a shower. You know what I mean? Some days you can take a longer shower. Some days you have to take a shorter shower. Some days you can be in there for an hour and sit in the hot water. Some days you take a bath and immerse yourself in it. Some days you take a quick shower. It's like, 120 seconds. It's like 2 minutes long, but I'm still taking a shower and I stay clean and fresh. Do you see what I'm saying? And if I miss a day because the power went out, it's like no big deal. I'm still clean. Do you see what I'm saying? Because I take showers regularly. So if I miss a day, it's just like no big deal. I'll hop back on the train tomorrow. That's exactly how this practice works. And it builds and builds and builds, and it's just like putting money in a bank account. So it's like if you forget a day, it's not the end of the world. Just do it the next day. You're not going to lose any money for forgetting a day. But when you do it the next day, you just keep putting that money in the account. You know what I mean? And it just builds and builds and builds. And in the beginning, sometimes that interest, you don't notice it sometimes as much in the beginning. And then all of a sudden, like a few months go by and you're like, wow, I really noticed it. You notice that compound interest. You know what I mean? That's how this practice works. It does not work to make us rigid and to make us feel bad about missing days or not doing it as long one day as we did the other day or anything like that. It's all about the intention and the sincerity of the process and our connection. And some days we may need it longer, and sometimes we, like I said, we may need to be more vigilant about, I am not missing a day. I'm doing an hour each day of this particular kriya or this practice or whatever it is. And you know what? It's a priority, and we make it a priority, and we have to in order to make it a habit. So, and when it becomes a habit, it becomes a part of you, and it's not something that feels like an extra thing you have to do. You're just doing it. So I think that it's awesome that you've had that experience, that you have experienced the 2 days of not doing it, and that you feel different, and that your body feels different. And I think that it's awesome that you've had the experience of doing it regularly, so you know what it feels like to do it regularly. It's just like maintenance at that point. You know what I mean? When you're doing it regularly, it's more maintenance instead of like digging these crazy things out of the trenches. I mean, that still happens when you're doing it regularly too, but a lot of times it's more like maintenance when you're doing it every day. And that's awesome, because you just keep yourself in this space, and it's pretty amazing. Stephanie Lane from San Diego says, can you explain boundaries amongst women and overgiving? I feel like I'm expected to overgive, and I've been working through this lately. When I overgive, I take energy away from myself. I think this is a great lesson for all women, because we have so much projection on us to be the best mothers, to be like, we have to be the best sexual beings in the bedroom and be like this, and in order to keep a man we have to be like this and do this, or we have to dress like this, or we have to look like this. We're always feeling like we're giving a lot just by being a woman. But the cool thing is women, we have a really extraordinary capacity to give more than any other kind of being on the planet. We as women have an extraordinary capacity to give, and that's why these practices are really important, so that we can be comfortable in our skin, so we can get comfortable in the mind, so that these things aren't distracting and draining our energy, so that we do have our optimal energy, so that we are at that. And then there's times we don't feel the energy to give, and we must take that time for ourselves. But as a woman, it's our natural state of being to be a giver. Whether you have children or not, that's just your natural state of being. So it's super important to have boundaries. And I think for me in my life, it's something I've been working on and I'm still working on, and it's always changing, right? So we think we got it down. Like, oh, I learned that I need my boundaries for this and this. And then we have another situation and that changes. And it just really depends on our relationship to the person, situation. But it really mostly depends on our relationship to ourselves in that moment. So if I know that as I've gotten older and as I've grown in life, I've gotten better with knowing what my boundaries are in each and every situation in my life. So maybe today I can give more, but maybe tomorrow I won't have as much energy to give. And it doesn't mean that I'm not strong and I don't have a lot of energy and that I'm not a giving person. It really means that I'm more in tune with myself now than I've ever been, and that I'm comfortable saying no. I'm comfortable asking people what their boundaries are and asking for things that I need. So remember, when you are able to be clear with your boundaries and comfortable with saying no and comfortable with saying yes to what you want and not want to say no and yes to, then you are more comfortable asking for what you need. Do you know what I'm saying? Because you understand that when you're giving something, that you're not only are you're that when you're giving of something, it's because you want to and because you're capable of doing it, and that if you're not giving something that you don't have. So for me, I think it's most important for me to get clear with my own boundaries so that I can also, boundaries aren't just what I let in and out of my situation. Boundaries are how much I can ask for, how comfortable I feel I can ask. That's a boundary for me. How much can I ask for help? Do you know what I'm saying? That's super important. And I think we need to get that clear, because a lot of women have a hard time asking for help. And I think that it's really important as women that we feel comfortable asking each other for help and asking men for help too. And asking other people, whether it be parents or children or whoever it is, when we need help. There's nothing wrong with that. So we have to... when you say you're expected to overgive, that is all on you. And I know that that's a hard pill to swallow, but if I'm giving too much, then I'm capable of giving in a certain day or in a certain project or something. That's my responsibility to say, whoa, like, look, I'm sorry, like I only have $5. I can't give you 10 right now, because right now I'll only have 5. Like, I just got to be clear with it. It's not that I'm like, today I have $5 and it doesn't mean that I'm not rich. Do you know what I mean? It means that today I only have $5 to give. This is what I have today. But tomorrow I might have 200 in cash or whatever. I can give more tomorrow. Or sure, I can let you borrow this, today. Or it doesn't feel good sometimes for me to give my energy and share my energy with people that I don't feel comfortable doing that with, and that's okay too. Okay, so that's really important that we get clear in ourselves when and how we're willing to give. And that is such a process. That does not happen overnight, and it takes practice and trial and error sometimes. And intuition is all about trial and error, isn't it? We hear this voice and we have to work with it, and sometimes we flop and we said, well, that's what that voice told me. Well, then we start to learn what that voice really sounds like when we make those decisions and practice with it, don't we? And it's a process, and same with our energy. It's the same thing. It's a process. So just keep practicing the Kriyas. Just keep working with them. And then it gets more clear and more clear the more that you do it. And sometimes the boundary is like, I don't have anything today. Nothing. And that's okay. And sometimes the boundary is your energy, the way that you project your energy. And sometimes your energy is more firm and protective, and that's okay. And sometimes your energy is more soft, and sometimes you just want to give a lot, and that's okay. So just go with how you feel. I think that's the most important thing. And if you're expected to overgive and you're doing that because you feel expected to do it, that's on you. You have to change that for yourself. And that's a process. And that's why we like to give these practices, because these practices are really helpful in helping you not give a shit so much what everybody thinks about you. You know what I mean? because that's a huge barrier between you and you. That barrier of what you think in your mind, like what you're so consumed with what people think about you. I'm not saying that you're doing that right now, but a lot of times as women, we go through these things, right? How are we appear to people? Am I being too bitchy? Am I not being strong enough? Am I being too much of a pushover? Women are constantly dealing with this stuff. I mean, come on, like how much, like when a woman speaks up for herself, come on, I've spoken up for myself countless times, and then have been called a bitch because I've done it, or been called this, or been, well, like, whoa, oh God, we were just, you know how you get those reactions sometimes as a woman, just from speaking up and be like, I'm done, I can't do this anymore. Well, gosh, I was just asking. That is something that's ingrained in people to do that, but that is a program that's being run through us and through other people. And the thing is the more comfortable we get in that, and the more we don't give a shit what people think in that kind of way about us, the more that stuff doesn't have a weight over us, and the easier it is to be clear in our boundaries, and the easier it is for us to ask. But we have to, this is, a practice. And I'm still working with it. We're all still working with it. I don't think that we ever feel that we get perfect at it. And I think we're just a work in progress. And so I hope that we all can remember that we're a work in progress. So, okay. But I do want to mention this. When a man speaks up for himself, he doesn't usually get that kind of reaction. Yeah. So remember that. Remember what we're working with. Remember, we're working with things. We still live in a world that if we go and get like massive breast implants, a lot of people are just like, it's just how it is. We're still in a world like that. So we can't fool ourselves and think that we're in some place that we're not. We're still in a world where we're dealing with oppression, where we're dealing with racism, where we're dealing with sexism, where we're dealing with all these things. We're still in a world where we're dealing with this. Is it getting better? Yeah, it's getting a little bit better. There's more awareness around it and stuff. We still all have a lot of residue with it. So, and it gets better and better. And every generation, we're starting to clear it more and more, but there's still a lot of work to do. Okay, so Yvette Watson is asking, what are the words spelled out for the opening meditation? This is really, I love how you wrote this. Ong Namo Guru Dev Namo. Thank you. I'm very happy to have come to access this practice. I'm so happy that you access this practice too. And it makes me feel so happy to read what you wrote here. Ong, O-N-G, Namo, N-A-M-O. Guru would be like, Guru. It would be like G-O-O. D-O-O, Gudu, like the word good, like writing good, and then you could put like a dash O-O, Gudu, like that. Dave, so you wrote on here D-A-Y, but it's D, how about like Dave almost, but it's not like Dave, the name like Dave, but it's like D-E-V is how we spell it. But it's Dave, like you're saying, hey Dave, like your friend, Guru Dave Namo. Very good. Okay, Margot from Paris. Hello, I'd like to know, do you have, you have to rest. I have to rest for the same time after each Kriya, or is it specific to Sat Kriya? Do I close the session and rest, or the other way around? Thanks a lot. Okay, so yes, Sat Kriya specifically is, if you're doing it for 30 minutes, it's good to rest or doing it for 31 minutes. If you can, rest for 31 minutes, but if you can't, 15 minutes is sufficient. But yes, you want to rest as much as you can, 31 minutes if you can. If you're doing Sat Kriya for 3 minutes, it's great to rest for 3 minutes. With the other Kriyas, if it is specified how long to rest, yes, rest for that amount of time if you can. And if not, then just rest for a little bit of time, or however much you can or want to. And if it's not specified, then just do what intuitively feels good in your body to reset that. To reset it and to allow the energy to do its thing, to allow it to just like, when we're resting, we're allowing the energy, what's the word that I'm looking for? The word is eluding me right now, but there's a really perfect word for this, and it's what the energy does. Here it is. We're consolidating the energy. When we breathe in at the end of the exercise, the breath at the end of the exercise is super important. So when we say inhale, retain the breath, squeeze Mulban, navel, rectum, sex organ, in and up. Allow the breath to circulate without being tense. Exhale. That's consolidation. And that's amazing. That's what we want to do with our energy, because that's what the energy needs in order for us to feel satisfied in our body, in order for us to feel comfortable. We need our energy consolidated, because what happens is during the day, and if we're not doing any kind of practice, the energy is like going to the periphery of our being and is being pulled in different directions. So that's why it's super important to do the practices. We cultivate the energy, we cultivate, and then we consolidate it. And that's what's super helpful in a clear mind and a strong projection, is consolidated energy. So the breath at the end is super important, and then allowing the energy just to relax and do its thing and rest and let everything integrate. That's why we rest, because we want that integration process. So yes, with Sat Kriya, it is specific to the time that you do it. And with any other Kriya, if there's no specific time given, go with your intuitive feeling on that. Sherry, when we are focusing into the third eye, we are actually looking up all our eye. Are we actually looking up? Our eyes are closed? We're just supposed to picture the spot of the third eye. That's an awesome question. We are actually not looking up that much. We're just focusing our gaze in between the eyebrows and slightly up. This is the kind of the connectivity point to the pituitary gland, and that's what we're wanting to stimulate. The pituitary gland's not actually right here. It's further back in the brain, but this is the gateway. This is how we stimulate it. We focus the optic nerve right here. So we're just looking there. We're just focusing the gaze. Does that make sense? Also, are the chants and music in the course specific to accompanying kriyas, or can we listen to any of Simrit's music while we practice once we've completed the course? Of course, you can listen to any music that you want. You can listen to any of my music while practicing once you've completed or during the course. I think there is one kriya in there, and that's clearing the arc line kriya, where we're doing like the Waheguru, 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 Waheguru. That one has that specific song that is specific for that kriya, but all the other ones are, you're good to go with whatever you want. Susan says from Los Angeles, are the kriyas, mantras, techniques supposed to clear us up so that we can be free from all the turmoil, to have a more peaceful life no matter what? I wish I could say that that's a magic button and you're never going to experience any turmoil or anything, but no, they're not meant for that. They're meant to clear us so that we can deal with life in a healthier way, in a way that is more supportive to our well-being. Does that make sense? Where we develop more supportive habits in our lives instead of running more demoting habits, which a lot of us do. We all have some demoting habits, and what we're wanting to do is create supportive habits. And to drop a habit that's demoting, it takes time. It takes 40 days to even change that habit. And to reestablish a new habit, that takes even more time. That takes 90 days. So what we want to do is we want to stay consistent with the practice, and the consistency helps us to stay clear. It's just like taking the garbage out every day. It's not that there's no garbage that fills up after we take it out. Yes, there's still going to be more accumulation, but as long as we're taking the garbage out every day, the garbage never really stinks, does it? It's just filling up a little bit, and then we clear it, fills up more, and then we clear it, fills up more, and then we clear it. And the more that we clear it, the more we start to see, it doesn't stink. It doesn't have to smell like this. It doesn't have to look like this. I thought it did, because that's what I thought reality was, because this is what I was living in for so long. But so this is a great question. Is it going to always give you peace of mind? No, of course not. We can't promise that doing these kriyas all the time is going to give you peace of mind. Does it give you the strength and the perspective to see the reality of what's really going on? Yes. Does it help take pain away? It helps to lessen pain in some situations because you're able to see things with a different perspective, but it doesn't take the pain of life away. I mean, we still experience up and downs with when we're yogis. We still experience arguments, and sometimes when we're yogis, we still experience triggers when we're yogis. Ultimately, we want to get to a place where nothing triggers us, and we can get to that place. But does it mean that we're not advancing if we feel those things? Heck no. Our feelings are sometimes markers to what's going on inside of us. So those are important markers to look at and to notice and to be aware of. Like, when this person says these things to me, I feel a certain way. Not they make me feel this way when they get like this. Like, when they speak like this, I feel triggered. What is that inside of me? Why? Let's dig deep into that. And that's what the practice helps us to do. It helps us to look at ourselves and see what's really going on. And it also helps us to have a more enjoyable life and more enjoyable mental and physical health. And that's really important because the world is bombarding us more and more right now with crazy weather, crazy information, tons of information that's overwhelming. Like even if you just go on social media, it's overwhelming. Just go get on the internet, it's overwhelming. So this system it gives us the tools and the techniques to be able to navigate the current situation in the world, not what it was like 50 years ago or 1,000 years ago or more. What helps us navigate what's going on now, and it helps us to be more adaptive to all the situations that are happening now and that are going to be happening in the future. This isn't a limited type of practice. This practice is something that helps us to adapt to any situation at any time on the planet, and it helps us to remember who we really are so that we're more satisfied in ourselves and more comfortable in our skin. And I keep saying that over and over because that's the bottom line. When we're more satisfied in ourselves, when our energy is more consolidated, when our energy is not all going in 100 different directions, when our energy is more consolidated and we're more satisfied in ourselves and comfortable in our skin, then we can live dharma, then we can live our purpose. And that has nothing to do with like, what should I do in life or how should I be? It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with our energy. When we're more satisfied in ourselves, then we don't have to look so much outside for satisfaction to feel a sense of that, because all of us here want to feel a sense of satisfaction inside of ourselves. And when we don't feel that, we're looking outside to feel that, to get that sense of satisfaction. And then we always feel let down when we're looking outside for the satisfaction. Because if I'm always looking for satisfaction outside of myself in the form of like some band that I'm going to follow around, well, eventually that band's going to stop playing, or someone's going to get out of the band and I'm going to feel disappointed. Or if I'm looking for it in my partner, well, eventually sometime my partner's going to do something or say something that triggers me or that I don't like. And then, what happens to my satisfaction? Then it's just like, just like a bomb comes in and like blows it up or something. It's like, we don't want that. We want to have self-satisfaction. We want to feel good in ourselves. We want to consolidate our energies so that we can be more focused in life on the things that really matter to us. Do you see what I'm saying? And so that we have a clear and more wide lens perspective so that we're not running through this like narrow lens, and every little thing that's not in this narrow lens is like an attack or doesn't resonate or is mean or is stupid or doesn't make, because a lot of people live like that, and it's a very narrow place to live. So these practices help us to open to ourselves, be more comfortable, and to feel more satisfied in ourselves and with who we are and what we've been given. Do you know what I mean? And what we've chosen, and how to be more responsible for ourselves and our actions and things like that. So yes. Yeah, it gives us more perspective. I had a friend whose parent just passed away recently, and they've been practicing Kundalini Yoga for 5 years. And she said, 5 years ago, this would have been a lot more painful. It still hurts. It's still really hard for me. But I have a different perspective on it now. Like I see what this is, and I see that my father's still with me and will always be with me. There's no separation. And it was this whole process, and she's, like really celebrating her father, and of course she's mourning. Of course she feels sad at times and things like that. But she this is why we love this practice. It's really helped her evolve into who she really is. And of course she cries, and of course she feels upset about it and things like that, but she has a different lens in which she's seeing this and experiencing it through, and it really creates a different experience for her around the whole thing. She has a healthier relationship with it. Okay, this is from Diane from Ontario, Canada. Hi, Diane. Which Kriya can I use after dinner to help with digestion, and how long after a meal? Thank you. And Satnam. What I suggest is, there's a lot of Kriyas for digestion, and I didn't put a specific digestive Kriya in this course, but you can look that up. You could look up Kriyas for digestion, Kundalini Yoga. But one thing that I really suggest is Sat Kriya, doing that ongoing in your life, especially as a woman. Sat Kriya is one of the most important things that you can give to yourself, even for 3 to 5 minutes a day, and that will really help your digestion. And the pose that we sit in when we're sitting on the heels, it's called rock pose. And rock pose is said to, our teacher Yogi Bhajan always said that if you sit in rock pose, like if you go to Asian countries, sometimes they still sit in rock pose when they're eating. And it's a very ancient practice, and it's really a smart thing to do, because when you're sitting in rock pose, you set your organs up in a way that the food flows through them more smoothly. It's not constricted. You're not sitting like this. You're not like constricting the intestines, and you're not like, there's just rock pose opens up this area of the body. And then you're sitting on your heels. And when you're sitting on your heels in rock pose, Yogi Bhajan said you can digest rocks. That's how amazing it is. So literally, I know we're not going to eat rocks and digest rocks, but what he's saying is you can digest so much more effectively and more potently when you sit in rock pose. So rock pose, like if you're eating, and of course, if you're at a table and you're not sitting on the floor in rock pose, where you're sitting on your heels like we do in Sat Kriya, you can, a couple quick tips, you can lay on your left side for a few minutes afterwards. That will greatly increase your digestion and help you digest your food afterwards. And if you can't do that, if you can't lay on your left side, then I suggest you sit in rock pose if you need help with digestion, just for a few minutes. So it's like go onto the rug or something and sit down on your heels if you can. And if you can't, then there's, then try doing Sat Kriya on a regular basis. That will help you. If you're doing it ongoing, it'll help you with your digestion as well as like 100 other things. So it's really, really great. And there's, like I said, there are Kriyas for digestion. Let's see, where are we right now? Okay. I tend to wake up in the middle of the night. This is Diane. Hi, Diane again. I tend to wake up in the middle of the night between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. I want to know which Kriya do you suggest for helping calm the monkey mind, put me back to sleep. Would I need to do a few warm-ups before the Kriya? Satnam. You could do any Kriya you want. I mean, doing a Kriya or doing long, deep breathing and meditating with your hands like this on your, in Gyan Mudra, and just focusing on the breath. Do the 1 minute breath. Inhale for 20 seconds, or, you have to sometimes start with less seconds. Sometimes you do 30 seconds, inhale for 10, retain the breath for 10, then exhale for 10, work your way up to 20, 20, 20. But, that 1 minute breath is like amazing for everything. It's like that balm that my dad always told me. We had this white thick cream called Lidex cream. Have y'all ever seen A Big Fat Greek Wedding where the father's always using Windex for everything? Well, I'm Greek, and I totally resonated with that part of the movie because my dad did that with Lidex cream. Well, that's what I do with a 1 minute breath. So the 1 minute breath is like the cure all for everything. I'm laughing because any kind of meditation practice you do at 3 to 5 a.m., lucky you that you wake up at that time. That's like one of the most optimal times to meditate anyways, where you're going to get the most out of your meditation. So kudos to you. Give thanks to your body for waking you up because you're already ahead of the game. If you're naturally waking up at that time, I would say do any kind of meditation or do like 10 minutes of the 1 minute breath, or, do do any of the kriyas that I gave, do Sat Kriya, do anything. I mean, do a chant. Just meditate with yourself in whatever form that is. That's a great time to do it. And then use your layout, like your Shavasana. So let's say you did Sat Kriya for like 11 minutes or something, or 22 minutes. And then instead of laying out right there on the floor, go lay out in your bed and pass out. You know what I mean? So if I do Sat Kriya before I go to sleep, my layout is my sleep. I love that because I always pass out really hard after that, because you just did Sat Kriya for, a certain amount of time, and it's a great thing. So you could use your layout or your relaxation after your meditation or Kriya or whatever. Use it as your bed. Like, put yourself in your bed after your meditation and go to sleep. And I would say, what Kriya do I suggest? Any of the ones I said, and any ones that you enjoy. They all take you to the same place. So this is from Monica from Trento, Italy. Wow. When I do Sat Kriya, I feel my hands burning. Is that normal? I super like this Kriya. I feel much better after I do it just 4 minutes. 4 to 10 minutes, still really difficult. Just 4 minutes. 10 is still really difficult, but little by little I will do that. Thanks a lot. A lot of light. Okay, yes. Yeah, your hands might burn, or they might be tingling because the blood's, flowing down because you got your hands up here. So, yeah, I know what you mean. Does that happens when I do it for a long period of time? Like if I'm doing it for like 22 or 31 minutes, sometimes I feel my hands like tingle or have like a stinging sensation. But for me, that's happening because the blood's kind of, going, it's leaving, because I got my hands up like this. So it won't like permanently damage you or anything like that. But I can understand it might feel a little awkward, but just so you know, that's normal. If you have your hands up like this, for some minutes, the blood flow is going to start going down like that. So keep going with that and keep building. I'm so glad you enjoy that Kriya because it's powerful. It's amazing. Nicole from Rochester Hills. Hey, so I've noticed with my growth on the spiritual journey that I've had a dot in my vision when I close my eyes now. I'm not sure what that could be. Maybe a sign of some sort, but I've just been wondering what that might be, or if you've heard of anything. Thanks so much for this. Of course, I did start a little late, but I'm catching up. This lesson was amazing. I feel great. Thank you. Wonderful. You have a little dot when you close your eyes. That's awesome. I don't know what that is. That could be like you looking at a light and then all of a sudden you see it, like if you look at a light and then you close your eyes, you see it. But sometimes, you're tuning into things and you see things, but I wouldn't get too caught up on what you're seeing, because that doesn't really give you any kind of window into any kind of progress or anything like that. So just be careful not to get seduced by any kind of visions and experiences. I've had a lot of visions during meditations, and I used to just get like super excited, like, ooh, like, then I had my teacher said, like, don't get seduced by that stuff because it doesn't mean anything. You're just like, it's just naturally what happens when you're opening up. It's stuff that's already there. So just, like if you see things, awesome. And if they're enjoyable, awesome. Enjoy those things. Enjoy that dot or whatever that is. And if you feel good about it, fantastic. Like whatever, and if you don't pay it any mind. It's no big deal, so just enjoy it, and don't get seduced by any visions or things that you might hear or things that you see. This is all par for the course. All right. Susan Johnson from Los Angeles. It's nice to how much do you... It is nice to know. Okay, this is a multifaceted question, but I think you're saying, is it nice to know how much you love your life? Do you have a wonderful life because of your practice? When did you find Kundalini Yoga? Okay, I found Kundalini Yoga when I was 19. And yeah, it changed my life, of course. I mean, I don't like to say that Kundalini Yoga changed my life. My life, it's a tool, it's a tool to help us enjoy ourselves and to continue to unfold naturally and organically instead of putting on all these different masks and all these different facets of society and feel like we have to fit this mold. It helps us to like just be more comfortable in our own skin and be ourselves. So in that sense, whoever feels satisfied in themselves and comfortable in their skin enjoys life way more than people that don't. That's a fact. I mean, you know, so like if you feel more comfortable in yourself, you're going to enjoy life more. If you don't feel comfortable in your skin, you're not going to enjoy life as much. That's how it goes. So does it help me have a wonderful life? Sure. It helps me have a better quality of life because I feel more comfortable in myself. My body feels better. I move my body around more. I move my cerebrospinal fluid up and down my spine every day. That alone helps me feel amazing and keeps me looking young and fresh to myself and helps me feeling great. It's like, and it's not about like trying to look 20 years younger. It's about me feeling youthful, not. And I don't want you to, don't mistake what I'm saying here. I'm not trying to be like a plastic version of myself when I say I'm trying to feel youthful. Everyone wants to feel youthful. When I'm 80, I want to feel youthful. And feeling youthful is feeling energetic, feeling good, feeling comfortable in my skin. So that's what I'm talking about, having an openness to myself and a constant curiosity. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, yoga helps 100% with that kind of stuff. How long did it take before you changed your life, your name, all that stuff? I mean, that was just so organic for me. It just wasn't even a big deal. My teacher sent me my name in the mail. I wrote him a letter. I said, I would like you to give me a name. He's like, okay, this is your name. And I resonated with it right away. As soon as I got it, I started going by Simrit. So, has it changed my destiny? I don't know. Has it changed my life? I don't know. I don't think about it that way. It's just a part of what I do. It was just like not a big deal to me. I love it. It's just not a thing. It's not a thing. It's not like, oh my God, I don't proselytize Kundalini Yoga. I'm not like, oh my God, Kundalini Yoga, like you don't understand. Everyone has to do. You just feel so good. It's just not like that for me. It's just natural. And that's what I love about the Life Force Academy. It's just a way to integrate it naturally in your life. I love how Jaidev delivers the teachings. It's natural. It's not like this thing, and I think when it becomes a thing, then we're separate from it. It's like this thing over here that we do, and we have this thing and we have to justify it and validate it, and I don't have to do any of that with Kundalini Yoga. I love what I do. I love the way I feel when I practice, therefore I continue to do it. And that's awesome that you're feeling good in your relationship with it. My mother's okay. I just read that was a statement. Okay, here we go. Hi, Simrit and team. I was just wondering if we can get a link to the music used in the Kriyas with a note of when to use them. I tried Shazam, but some of the songs are not recognized. That's because I played some of my new music from the new album on there, and that is going to be released on December 11th. So, on December 11th, which is just a couple weeks from now, get yourself the Simrit album, When We Return, on iTunes, Amazon, whatever. It'll be on the streaming channels, Spotify, Tidal, all that stuff. Check out When We Return, the Simrit album. That's the first time you'll be able to hear those songs in full and use them. As far as like the course and all that kind of stuff, are they able to get the music like in the course, or do they have to have it on there? Your music. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anything they can Shazam, they'll just be able to Shazam on the separate. There's just that one track that we use in the Green Archive.
Can you talk about that in here? Can you come up here and say that?
Yeah.
Yeah, Charlotte's gonna come talk with you about that, and then we'll close. Okay, this is the last question. What? Yeah, they want to know. Yeah, see what you think when you read this question. Your Charlotte's more knowledgeable on this than I am, and I want her to talk about it. Here.
Hey guys.
This is Charlotte.
Hey.
Isn't she beautiful? And she helped so much with this course. Thank you
I
again.
love this course.
I love this course too.
I'm so stoked on this course.
Well, Charlotte was very instrumental in making it happen and happening very smoothly. And Aki is over here too. He was also very instrumental in making it so beautiful and delivered it in such a beautiful way to y'all. He's also here. I love this. I love working with this team. I feel so fortunate. Okay, so here we are. It says, I was wondering if I can get a link to the music used in the Kriyas. I tried Shazam, but some of the songs are not recognized. Probably my new stuff.
Yeah,
it's
and the new stuff. There's
I'd
just
like to create a playlist that I don't have to fiddle with
develop
from my daily routine. This would be so appreciated. I enjoyed this experience so much, and is becoming easier to stay focused and consistent. This has made it easier with this structure set, and we're really happy to hear that, because you see me teaching like on the video and stuff, but Charlotte and Ross and Jai Dave and Joshua and Jen and Aki, like everyone here on this team is the reason that it can be delivered to you in this format that makes it easier for you to practice. So give thanks to them for doing that, because this wouldn't even be happening without them, because I sure as hell don't know how to create all this videos and put them out there for y'all to see online and stuff. Like that's not my forte. My forte is talking with you all on the camera and stuff like that, but the rest of it, which is like the other half of it, it's all these amazing human beings. So yeah, so that's why Charlotte's gonna help you.
cool. So I would say almost all the music in the course is your music. Mm-hmm. There's that one track for the Clearing the Arc Line meditation. We can't provide that as a download because it's a copyrighted track. Mm-hmm. So we can't provide that as a download on the course because it's someone else's music. But what you could do is it's Gyani G on Spotify, and if you just like type that in, like Waheguru Waheju.
Like, yeah, Gyani, and then the next word is Ji. Yeah, and the Waheguru Wahegio. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I would just find it that way. It's on iTunes too. Mm-hmm. I checked it there. So you can find it on iTunes, you can find it on Spotify. If you have trouble Shazamming Simrit's music in the course and you want to like find a certain song, go ahead and shoot us an email at support@jaidavesing.com and be like, this is the module or the Kriya. I'm looking for this song at this time. And if you give us that information, we'll just be able to go in and be like, oh yeah, that's this song, and we'll be able to send it to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Charlotte.
Yeah, thanks for bringing me on.
Yeah,
thanks,
totally.
guys.
So there you have it. So if you have any questions about the songs that you can't Shazam and ask our support team, like Charlotte was saying. And there's some songs that are coming out December 11th. That's a whole new album called When We Return. That's my new album with my band. It's our new album, the Simrit album, and that will be released on like iTunes and Spotify. So get your copy, because it's a really awesome album, and it's got like it's got some really awesome new material on it that we can't wait to share. And it's been so wonderful to spend this time with y'all today and to be in this course with y'all. And I'm so happy to read about your progress and your questions and the things that you're coming up against and the challenges and the smooth things. Everything like that is just part of the journey, and I love it. And I love that you're all enjoying the course and have so many questions. That's freaking awesome. It makes me so happy to know that you're really in it like this, and I look forward to hearing from you more in the future. And if you have any other questions, support@jaidevesing.com. That's support@ JAIDEV as in Victor SINGH.com. All right, y'all. So much love, and look forward to hopefully seeing a lot of y'all in person in the future, in the near future. Satnam.